have your check, and I do have...
Wait a minute. Don't you have another job for me?
Not at this time, Lou, but we won't forget you, and I'm sure that if something comes up and...
21 years? You bet you won't forget me.
Calm down, Lou.
A firing leads to violence. How can you prevent this from happening? That's next on ProForce. Hi, I'm Dave Smith, and welcome to ProForce. You know, security officer tasks may be considered as traditional or non-traditional. Now, you're familiar with the traditional duties: patrolling, access control, identification of individuals, monitoring of surveillance equipment, and emergency response. Non-traditional duties include parking lot escorts, helipad operations, and hospital emergency room activities. Now, due to the increased violence in the workplace, the need for security officers to assist other staff members has become more prevalent. This includes the procedures to be used during the termination of an employee, and that is the focus of this month's program. Now, here's a look at the instructional objectives. After viewing this program, officers should be able to properly address violence in the workplace through prior planning, event coordination, and violence de-escalation training. They should also be able to make recommendations to an employer or client concerning possible violent situations that may occur in the workplace. Helping us with this topic is Gerald Kelly. He's the Associate Director of Healthcare Security Services in California. Let's hear what he has to say.
Recently, there's been an increase in activity within the workplace. And this, I suppose, is caused to some extent by the reorganization and reconfiguration of organizations, which are causing, in some cases, terminations and layoffs. So it is important that security officers understand that they may be called upon to perform tasks to support and assist during a termination, or to respond in the case that an incident of violence might arise within their workplace. We've identified some scenarios or some situations which you may be confronted with. Of course, there's a right and wrong way to do each. We're going to go through each one of these, and then afterwards we'll comment on what you saw and what you might have thought was proper and maybe an improper response to these incidents of violence. So let's proceed. The first situation that we're going to cover involves an employee who's going to be terminated immediately in the workplace by his superior. And please note that we're going to show both the wrong way and the right way to accomplish this termination. So at this point, let's show the first scenario.
Okay, send them in, please. Come in.
Hi, Mr. Jones. You wanted to see me?
Hi, good morning, Lou. Please take a seat.
Probably about that United Way campaign we've been working on, huh?
No, unfortunately not, Lou. As you probably know, the company's been going through a lot of changes lately. We're reorganizing, we're downsizing, right-sizing. There's a lot of different terms that we use. I've only been here a couple of weeks, as you know, as the HR manager, but one of my jobs, and I don't particularly like this job very much, is terminations. In your particular case, we've decided that your function is no longer one that we could support.
You mean I'm losing my job?
Well, your function...
I've been here 21 years. You've been here 2 weeks.
That's true, Lou, but unfortunately your function no longer is applicable for our costs. The company's suffering a lot of cost override, and you're one of those cost override. I do have your check, and I do have...
Wait a minute. Don't you have another job for me?
Not at this time, Lou, but we won't forget you, and I'm sure that if something comes up and...
21 years? You bet you won't forget me.
Calm down, Lou. Calm down. Yes, hi. Security? This is Mr. Jones. I have some concerns about a termination that I'm going to be conducting in about 20 minutes. You and I have worked before on this, and so I'd like for a couple of things that you would do to support me, please. One of them is I'd like for a security officer to come in and replace my secretary, and the other one is I'd like for an officer to be outside my door as well. I'm not sure about this individual. He has kind of shown some violent tendencies in the past, so I'd like to go ahead and use the code word we've used in the past in case things start to get out of hand. And as you know, that code word is don't raise your voice in my office. Can you accommodate me with all that? Great. Thanks a lot.
Hello, Mr. Jones. I'm here for the replacement.
Oh, you're good, yeah.
Hi, Mr. Jones.
Hi, Lou. Come on in. Sit down.
It's about that United Way campaign that we've been working on?
Unfortunate. It's not, Lou. It's about something a little more serious than that. As you know, we've been going through some downsizing and some right-sizing in the organization, and your job, unfortunately, is one of the ones that's been made redundant. So today we're going to have to terminate you. I have the paperwork here for you.
You mean I'm not going to have a job? You don't have some other job or anything?
Well, Lou, your service has been noted, and if something else
I've been here 21 years.
I know that. And
You've been here 2 weeks.
Well, Lou, it's my job, and I hate to do it, but I have your check, and I have all the paperwork that's essential for you.
Check. 21 years I've been here. I don't care about a damn check.
Calm down, Lou. It'll be all right. Calm down.
Calm down?
Lou, don't raise your voice in my office.
What?
Lou, I've got your check. I've got your paperwork here. When you calm down, please give me a call. These gentlemen will escort you out. Good luck.
Okay, in the first scenario, the first situation, you saw an employee who was being terminated immediately. There were two versions of this situation. In the first one, it was apparent that the person conducting the termination had not prepared or planned for a possible violent reaction to the news, the bad news he gave to the employee. It was also apparent that this human resources person was not trained in the techniques of de-escalation, and little or no coordination had taken place before for this type of situation to arise. And in this case, the employee who had been terminated became agitated and violent, as we saw, was about to inflict some injury or other abuse on the employer. In the second case, it was the same situation. However, there was evidence that good planning had taken place. The people representing the organization, including the security officers, had been trained, and the situation was handled in a smoother way. So the important elements here are that planning needs to take place, the location that the termination is conducted is important. Both the security officers and other staff members should be trained in the techniques of de-escalating violence. And it's very important to coordinate with the security staff before the termination takes place. You notice that there was a code that had been arranged, and at that point the security staff came in and escorted the gentleman out of the office. So those are some of the points to remember. At this point now, we're going to move to our second scenario. Our second scenario involves an employee who has been provided or has been sent a letter of termination to his home, and he then returns to the workplace to find out what has transpired, and he becomes agitated in this situation.
It explains that you haven't marked
That's not what I'm interested in. I'm interested in why I'm getting fired. It's not my fault. I've been out of town.
Well, you have
I had a death in the family.
Okay, and the thing with it is that you haven't worked in 3 months.
That's not my fault.
Well, I realize that.
It's not, I mean,
realize that.
if someone dies, you've got to go see them. I'm
Yes,
sorry,
you do,
this is
but-
not my fault.
However, this is, you know, we need you to work a period, you know, a few days during the
Look,
peak
I have
period.
been here for 6 years now. I have a little bit of time off because I have to be. It's an emergency leave. I'm
Well, look,
sorry it had to happen.
Look, I didn't send this letter out. Our manager sends them out. I have nothing to do
Look,
with it.
somebody is going to pay for this.
Hi, may I help you?
I don't think so. I don't think there's anybody here that's worth a darn, man. This sucks. I just got fired. I don't know
Can you
why.
excuse me, please?
I don't think so.
Services, can you hold, please? Okay.
Can you get someone out here, please?
I have a code 7.
No.
Oh, okay.
This is not cool. I was on leave of absence. I've got an excuse.
Excuse me, it's Bill, isn't it? Aren't you?
Yeah, it's Bill.
Hi,
Y'all should know.
Yeah, I wrote you the letter. Why don't you come on in and let's talk about this. There are a couple issues that I want to explain to you on why the decision was made, and you can tell me how come you weren't able to show
Well, this
up.
pretty much says it all. I mean, this is not cool. Y'all just don't.
Okay, in our second scenario, we had an employee who had been mailed a letter of termination come back to the workplace. The first person that he had to deal with was the receptionist. In the first scenario, the receptionist attempted to handle this situation on her own, and it became somewhat confrontational. At this point, she had no one there to help her, and the employee became violent and actually had threatened her. At this point, no one else in the office was aware that there was a violent situation that was brewing. In the second version of the same scenario, there had been prior coordination, and also the receptionist had been trained on how to handle the potential for violence in the workplace. In this case, after attempting to calm the former employee, she had at her disposal both a duress alarm and also a prearranged telephone situation where when there was evidence of some emotion or violence in the receptional area, that other members of the staff would come to her assistance. At that point, they came in, they dealt with the employee, defused the situation, and the employee left. And the points here is that a receptionist should not attempt to single-handedly deal with an irate employee. And there's a variety of options that are available. The one you saw worked in this case. Some variety of that should be successful in this type of situation. Now we're going to move on to another situation. In this case, one of the employees on the staff in this office had caused a restraining order to be issued on her spouse. When he received this restraining order, which came as a surprise, he immediately wanted to talk to her about it. So he came roaring into the workplace and demanded to see the person, his wife. So we're going to look at two scenarios of this particular situation.
Where's Janet? I want to see her now. The bitch put a restraining order on me. This is not cool. I can see her anytime.
You would go on.
She's at her desk. I'll take care of the bitch. I want to see Janet right now. Any hellos or anything? I want to see Janet right now. The bitch put a restraining order on me. Uncool. She won't accept the phone call. She's going to have to see me one way or another.
I understand that you're upset, but let me see if she's in a meeting. She's been in meetings all day long.
She's going to be pulled out if she is, yes.
Oh, okay, 1 minute.
I want to talk to her now.
Code 7.
Leave this. Let the women do this. The women.
Hi,
Yeah.
I'm with the security department here. You're who?
My name's Bill. I'm looking for White Janet. The whore put on a restraining order on me. She cannot do that. She can't do that and just leave me hanging. She can't do that. I want to see her now.
Okay, well, we've got a little problem. She is in a meeting, okay? You are on our company property.
All right, that was our third scenario. In this situation, an employee's spouse had been issued a restraining order, and he had returned to the workplace in an effort to see her to discuss the problem. In the two versions that we presented, in the first version, the receptionist attempted to deal with the irate spouse on her own, without help, without coordination, without training. As a result, she became the object of violence because the irate spouse acted out his violence against her, and she was unprotected at that point because there was no indication that anyone else on the staff knew that she was in trouble. In the second version, prior planning, coordination, and training all came into effect. When she felt that the person was not within her ability to control or deal with, she quickly summoned assistance using a telephone code. And as a result, 2 security officers who were on the staff were summoned and met with the spouse and successfully calmed him down, and also saw to it that he left the workplace. It's important to notice that they gave him an option, which was a meeting with his spouse under different circumstances at a later time. So in this third scenario, again, you saw the possibility of violence, and also some things that can be done to avoid violence in the workplace. To sum up, we showed you an employee who was being immediately terminated by an HR representative. We saw an employee who had returned to the workplace after receiving a termination letter and got into a confrontation with the receptionist. And then in the final situation, an employee's spouse who had received a restraining order attempted to deal with that issue in the workplace rather than in a more proper location. You might have noticed that in each of these situations there were unique facets, but there are also some common denominators that ran through the more successful versions of handling each one. Obviously, prior planning is important. If a termination is going to take place, then the activity needs to be orchestrated, and response and assistance needs to be arranged. It's also important that both security officers and other staff members who relate to security have some training on the techniques of de-escalation, due to the propensity that this occurs in the workplace today. It's also very important that prior coordination be made with local law enforcement agencies in the event that the security presence is not sufficient, understanding that security officers are limited to their functions of deter, detect, and report. And short of a act where life was in danger, the response would be at that point to contact local law enforcement and have them actually escort the person out of the building. So as a security officer, you have 2 basic functions in this regard. One is to participate and assist in the control of the situation and the de-escalation of violence. You also have a responsibility as a security professional to advise both your supervisor and the client for whom you work on measures such as you've seen today, which would assist the security officer and the staff in general in dealing with violence.
Well, that's great information. Now, before we go any further, I want to remind you to take personal responsibility to help prevent violence in the workplace. Remember, it's a growing phenomenon nationwide, and to help stop it, you personally have to understand the role that you play. You must care about your fellow employees. Help at all times to locate those things that may create stress or cause a problem, and care about everyone around you. That's part of being a professional. And that's our look at violence in the workplace. We hope you enjoyed the program and can benefit from the information presented here. Now, let's take a look at what's coming up next month on ProForce.
Are you all right now?
No, I don't think I am. I think I was just tripped over that mat the way it's turned up like that. Downstairs, I think I've hurt my ankle.
You know how bad it is? Is it hurting you real bad or what?
Yeah, it's bad.
Is it starting to swell?
Yes.
Okay, you want me to call the ambulance?
I don't think I can get up.
Okay.
Well, is this a real slip and fall situation, or is it a case of fraud? We'll examine that topic on the November edition of ProForce. Well, I'm Dave Smith. It's all the time we have for today, and we'll see you next time.